Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jayakula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. Somebody talked about maggots today on Slack. They rescued a kitty that had an infected ear and there were some maggots in it. And I said, hopefully, we're all going to be eaten by maggots one day. And then the person responded something like, yes, but in my condition of mostly feeling separate, I don't want to be eaten by maggots while I'm alive. Mm-hmm. It was kind of interesting because I meant when we're dead. Although I suppose we could be eaten by maggots while we're still alive, but we'd have to be in some extreme situation, right? But this person's immediately went to, I'm going to be attacked by maggots while I'm alive. So the question is, what is the use of being reminded of impermanence? Of course, in just sort of common Buddhist parlance, there's often a bunch of finger wagging about impermanence, right? Everything's impermanent, and that's supposed to spur us in some way. And in fact, people even sometimes say things aren't real because they're impermanent. Of course, that's not our view. The teaching on impermanence is a relative teaching. Despite, yes, but basically I don't want to have to think about maggots when I'm still feeling separate. That's exactly when you should think about it. When you're in a relative condition, when you're still mostly stuck in dualistic vision, that's when thinking about being eaten by maggots is actually good for you. And it's kind of somewhat paradoxical, because one reason we might want to remind ourselves that we're all going to be someday eaten by maggots, of course, unless we become really wealthy and have ourselves cryogenically preserved. But even then, eventually the planet will not support cryogenesis, and probably the machines will fail, and eventually we'll be eaten by maggots anyway. Just 50,000 years from now. So, one reason for remembering that is remembering that this body is here for only an instant, for only a flash, and that it is going to go away, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. That death is perfectly natural, and so that we don't get too attached to this. Right? We understand that in a blink of an eye, we're going to be gone. A better thing to think of than maggots, perhaps, is that 100 years from now, every single person that is here will not be here. Of course, unless some people have a lot of money and they get their telomeres and their mitochondria lengthened and they live longer. However, we don't seem to be going in that direction. We seem to be going back to the Stone Age, in which cases our lifespans will become shorter and shorter. In fact, the lifespan of an average person in the U.S. is now declining. The threat to live births is greater than it was. You know, we're at least for this little blip of history, we're somewhat in decline in terms of our longevity and viability. We may recover from that, who knows? But in any case, in general, right now, every single person on this planet who is here right now will be gone within 100 years. That's not to scare you, it's just to kind of jolt you out of your over-earnest self-concern. Your over-earnest concern with this body, which is just going to be maggot food, in very short order. In fact, there are tantric meditations where, as you're doing the mantra and you're visualizing your body burning in a cremation ground up here, like a little cameo, that you're just supposed to keep that in mind as you're doing your meditation or your mantra. And when I got this instruction, my teacher said, so I want you to see yourself in the cremation ground burning. You don't have to get too gruesome, but just have that in mind. There's also practices done in cremation grounds. Right? Cremation grounds in India are where all bodies are disposed of after they die. So no maggots, because everybody gets cremated pretty much. And so it's a very tantric thing to go practice in a cremation ground where you're being reminded of death, or even to practice while sitting on top of a dead body, on top of a corpse. Get used to impermanence. Get used to the fact that this is where you're going. So what does that do? It lowers your fear of death. It lowers your attachment to this body. It gives you a much bigger view. It brings you into a feeling of commonality with others, because it doesn't really matter what you achieve in this life that's so unique and wonderful compared to other people, because we're all going to be eaten by maggots or burned or whatever's going to happen to our bodies. So one way of using the recognition of our impermanence by doing things like imagining ourselves burning in a cremation ground or being eaten by maggots is so that we can develop more dispassion about impermanence and our eventual demise, or we can be less attached. And then conversely, a reason for thinking about impermanence is recognizing, hey, I'm not going to be here that long, and I don't know what's going to happen after I die. We might as well do whatever we can to prepare and lead a good life and try to wake up a bit more. So, one way of thinking about impermanence is, hey, I'm only here for a flesh, let's not get too attached to anything. But the other way is, hey, better practice a lot, because you have a beautiful human body right now, and next time around, God knows what you'll be or if you'll be. So, good opportunity. While you're in a form that can do all these different kinds of practice, you can't in a form where you can receive teachings, because we don't really know whether other beings, what sadhanas they can do, or whether they can have teachers. I mean, my classic example, I'll just drag this out now because we're going back to California, and we will encounter these creatures. If you're born as a banana slug next time around, you just don't know what sadhana you'll be able to do. Right? Yes, I'm doing sadhana with my own slime trail. I mean, I don't know, does that work? So there is some kind of a chance, based on the teachings we've received from our betters, that if we practice a lot, then we'll have more of an awake experience in the bardos, and we'll be able to play more and choose different kinds of incarnations when we're in the bardos of death, and have more fun, and continue doing sadhana, and hooking up with cool people, and not slithering around leaving a slime trail. Or worse, being a demon or a hungry ghost or something. The teachings on impermanence are for people who are worried about death. They're for people who are worried about their bodies. They're for people who maybe are a little bit lazy and self-involved and think, oh, I have a million years, I'm never going to die. Yeah, I'm going to get my telomeres lengthened. Plan to get a really high-paying job. I'm going to hook up with one of those fancy science trials, and I'm going to live for 200 years. Watch me. Or you just don't think about it at all. And these teachings are for people who are scared, right? Teachings on impermanence. Right? So that you can lessen your fear, and so that you can do more practice, have reason to do more practice. It's not the ultimate reason, but it's good enough until you have more realization. And then why do we do practice? Because it's fun. Because it's the funnest. But see, while you're still in your earnest condition, you need more of a reason than that. So you're going to die. Okay, now I have to do my imitation of Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche. You are human. Time is passing. And then he does a little skit where he says, you are just think you are dying. And then you think, I should have done some practice, but it's too late.